Greetings, I am the mighty Master Voluminous, teacher, commentator, and most importantly to you, storyteller. Today we will carry on with the paranormal crime thriller, Vatour, Feel Free to Die, by Gift C Enyadike Jr. But before we do that, let's get some announcements out of the way. As mentioned in the last episode, to increase the availability of the podcast, I'm going to be uploading this and all upcoming episodes to my YouTube channel, Master Voluminous. I'll also be bringing past episodes to the channel, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. You can also follow the Voluminous Talks podcast on Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and Google. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Substack, and Amazon. Links will be in the description. The first 3 chapters were centered around a violent gang called the Hellfire Crew being wiped out by the titular vigilante, who also saved an old tailor named Vadim Ivanov. He'll be important later, so I suggest staying tuned to the podcast or purchasing the book on Amazon. Chapter 4 follows a low-level street gang trying to fill the power vacuum. It's one of my favorite chapters, so I hope you enjoy it.
Chapter 4 Scavenger. In the large basement of a safe house on the far eastern side of Scotch, a meeting is taking place. A group of 10 people, all of them wearing tracksuits for whatever reason, are gathered to discuss the latest power shifts in the criminal underworld. It had been a week since the Hellfire Crew was all but completely eradicated, and the leader, Charing, went into hiding, meaning the southeastern bloc was left with a massive power vacuum. Gangs in the surrounding areas have been having meetings, just like this one, on whether or not they can, or better yet, whether or not they should, expand their territories. Taking over a whole block could stretch their resources very thin, which would make them vulnerable. But fortunately, many criminal groups do in fact have enough resources to do so. But the true challenge is attempting to come up with reasons why attempting to steal the Southeast is a good idea. The Hellfire Crew were known for being maniacs. There were unspeakable acts committed by those in its ranks that made them seem more like terrorists than street thugs. While not the most feared crime boss in the city, Charing was still extremely high in the criminal pecking order. A stone-faced, calculated individual who claimed to fear no man, many a time intimidating crime bosses who outranked him, including the families. It was often believed he'd be at the top if he truly desired power. A theory was raised that perhaps he had somehow manipulated his own subordinates into killing each other, which isn't unheard of, as Charing is known for killing those that disappoint him. There was just one problem with that theory. Charing wouldn't have spared the civilians. If he had decided to kill his own gang, he'd have ordered them to burn the whole place down before they had all enacted whatever manipulations were placed inside their minds. But aside from a few disappearances over the last couple of months, the local populace is untouched. Another problem is the way in which Charing's people were killed. To put it mildly, they did not fit the Hellfire style, and as the news report stated last week, each body was found with a single black feather, either next to it or stuck to it in some way. Not the kind of symbolism a group named after a place in the afterlife where the corrupt souls of men are sent to after facing judgment would go for. The point is, the Hellfire Crew were killed off by someone or something that decided to spare those not directly associated with the criminal underworld. On top of that, a high-ranking crime boss has gone into hiding. Many of the surrounding areas, gangs, have decided to leave the Southeast alone for now. As stated before, there are smart criminals who are cautious and measure the pros up against the cons of every action they take. Then there's these guys.
The southeastern block is ripe for the taking, I tell you,
a balding, dark-skinned man says, addressing those in attendance.
And with that lunatic Charing gone, all the other groups are scared shitless. The dingoes will be unstoppable. Eugene, that's what you said during the gang wars.
A red-haired woman of Caucasian descent comments.
And we lost most of our crew, including the previous boss, and ended up being the first ones to pull out. We're down to 10 people, which has ruined our street cred, which is why we're so low on the blacklist. I don't need to be reminded of past failures, Anik, Eugene says irritably. He then continues with his speech. But this time, I'm absolutely certain that we can take the place. The boss is right. A blonde-haired Caucasian man speaks up. All the other gangs decided to leave the place alone, and the cops are acting like the Hellfires never existed. Plus, there's an abandoned street that no one goes near. A short brunette Caucasian woman chimes in. We can use the buildings as safe houses. You mean the place where they found Phoenix's decapitated body? Well, yes, but I'm sure he probably rubbed Charing the wrong way. You don't seriously think that Charing would have murdered his own crew, do you? He was a lunatic, and besides, he's gone. Johan and Stella are right. Freebird's Avenue's the perfect place to set up a brand new base. Eugene straightens up. We begin tonight. We'll move in and stage a coup in the morning.
The people in the room nod and make their way up the stairs. Anik is reluctant to leave.
What's your problem? There's an old tailor who lives in the southeast that said he was up there at night. Ember and several of Charing's cronies were killed. He saw Charing hop in a car and drive away in fear for his life. We all saw the news reports, so what? He said the last thing he saw before getting knocked out was some kind of what? Some kind of phantom. You're wasting time over what some senile old fart said on TV. Who the fuck takes the news seriously anyways? But he had one of those black feathers with him. You know, the ones found next to the dead Hellfires?
Eugene pinches the bridge of his nose.
Anik, are you telling me you think a ghost massacred one of the deadliest gangs of the last 10 years? I don't know! Anik stays flustered. I just don't think going near that place is a good idea. At least send someone to check it out first. I already sent Jade. She said it was deserted. The longer we wait, the sooner the place gets snapped up. Eugene exclaims, and then points an accusing finger at Anik. Weren't you just bitching about how low our street cred is? This is a chance to get some respect, by being the only gang with the balls to touch Southeast. Anik slaps his hand away. I'd rather be disrespected than dismembered.
Eugene gets in her face and speaks in a low, threatening voice.
Then you better shut the fuck up and get moving.
Anik shoves past him and makes her way up the stairs. Eugene calls out, and no more of that phantom crap. She ignores him and keeps walking. That night, the dingoes make their way to an old house on Freebird. The house is old, with paint peeling off, cobwebs everywhere, and broken windows.
This is the place that Jade picked? Yep. It's perfect. No one would think to look here, Eugene confirms.
The others do not share his enthusiasm.
Don't lighten up, you wusses. The place just needs some sprucing up and it'll be home sweet home. Now where the hell's Jade? She said she'd meet us here. Maybe she's checking out the other houses, Johann suggests. In case there's a better one. Maybe she ditched us, Anik chimes in. She wouldn't be the first. She gets a cold stare from Eugene, scoffs, and decides to explore the rest of the house. Eugene stares after her for a few minutes, then turns to the rest. Well, what are you waiting for? Get the stuff, he orders. The other dingoes look at each other, and as they are about to go back to their vehicles, Anik's scream is heard from upstairs. No, what's her fucking problem? Eugene asks. I think she needs help, boss, Johann says. Maybe we should check on her. Be my guest, Eugene indicates for him to go in her direction. Johann makes his way upstairs and calls out to Anik. In here, she says. When Johann enters the first room on the right, he finds Anik with her hands on her mouth, sobbing, standing over an olive-skinned woman with black hair. The woman's green tracksuit is torn in areas, exposing deep cuts all over her body and face. Her blood is all over the floor. Johann almost tosses his lunch. Jade? He chokes out. He looks at Anik as if she has the answers, but she stands frozen, keeps staring at the dead body before her. Johann looks back at Jade's body, trying to comprehend the sight before him. Who could have done this? Jade had called Eugene about the house a mere 3 hours ago. Now she's dead? How? When? Why? By who? He cannot find the answers to the questions burning in his mind, but he does understand one thing. Anik, we have to get out of here. She slowly nods, looks at him, and gasps. What is... Johann's neck is snapped before he can finish his question, and he drops to the ground. Once again, Anik screams, or at least she would if her throat was not slit. The knowledge that she's choking on her own blood does not frighten her half as much as the sight of her assailant. Perhaps it's a hallucination of some sort, but she swears she can see the Grim Reaper.
Feel free to die, the ghoulish figure says before leaving the room. That she does.
All right, boys and girls, Eugene calls the group together. Let's talk strategy. The group is seated in a circular table in the kitchen. Stella speaks. From here, we can store all our goods, guns, drugs, contraband, you name it. And with the whole town frightened by ghost stories, we'll rule this block.
Yeah! The group yells in unison. And then the lights go out.
We just got those fucking things working, Eugene yells. Someone go check it out.
Suddenly chaos ensues as the sound of furniture flying and screaming echoes throughout the room.
What the hell's going on? Stella? Johann? Guys! Eugene calls out just as the lights come back on. Eugene suddenly wishes they stayed off. All over the kitchen are the dead bodies of his crew. He runs into the living room. The front door is wide open. He could easily run out, get in the car and leave, but he does not, because there is a feather in the doorway. A single black feather. Who are you? He asks, looking around. Who are you? What do you want? Silence. Without warning, Eugene finds his left leg sliced off at the knee. He screams and falls to the ground. Please, I'll do anything! He begs. Fear and pain are a terrible combination of feelings for anyone to experience. He looks up, and to his horror, sees a hooded figure standing over him. This thing may as well be the angel of death, clad in all black, and a hood covering its face. A skeletal face, with blacked out eye sockets that seem to look directly into his soul.
So, You're the leader of the dingoes? Asked the ghoulish figure. Its voice is deep and distorted. His speech is slow and broken. Wish I could say I was disappointed. To his right, Eugene notices a handgun. He quickly attempts to grab it and gets his hand chopped off. He screams again. The shadowy figure tilts its head to the side. In its hand is a large blade dripping with blood. I left that there to test if you would be that predictable. I was right.
Please, don't kill me. Please, I can shut up.
The balding crime boss complies. The hooded figure crouches down to meet him at eye level. You asked who I was, what I wanted. A lengthy pause follows in which the skull-faced entity stares at his captive. The seemingly eyeless holes looking into his eyes, seeing his fear, the figure finally speaks. I am a scavenger, it says before grabbing Eugene's face and leaning in closer. This time Eugene can see his captor's silver eyes. Hunting corpses.
There it is, my acolytes. The soon-to-be iconic line spoken by the man himself, in what was a delightfully disturbing scene. You know, it's always sad when the character with the most common sense dies, because they kept going on and on and on about how bad things are going to get. You should have listened to her, Eugene. Oh well, he's dead. Oh, and if you felt sick after listening to this chapter, or reading it if you purchased the book, then I suggest you pump your stomach before listening to the next couple episodes. Because, trust me, these geniuses, they got off easy. Until next time, listeners.